So here's a question I had asked me today. When a butler comes in and I do a general service, some of you guys might call it a once over, give it oil changes, however you want to word it. It, you know, basically what they're asking me is to check everything that is pertinent and that runs the system to make sure everything's up to spec and the belts are good and so on. So here's my video. The truck comes in. I will, first of all, I will run the system. I'll put my pressure gauge on it. And I don't have one out right now, but I'll put my pressure gauge on it and I'll run the pump and I'll run the blower. And as I'm running everything, I will actually connect the hose up here and do a blower flush with 5 gallons of detergent. And you guys are asking, some guys have asked, what do I put in there? I don't, it's not a degreaser. I mean, whatever I can grab my hands on. I mean, I'll use some cheap knockoff chemistry that I don't ever use for carpet cleaning, but works good for cleaning. And so unless you're doing a lot of greasy restaurants, and here's the thing, the more often that you do it, and it should be done once a month, washing the blower out, unless you're doing a lot of greasy restaurants, all you need is a little bit of detergency. So I'll take a scoop full of some powder and some hot water that I have on my sink over there that I showed the other day. Make sure it's diluted and ready to go. I'll throw my suction hose on here. And this, by the way, the threading is a 1/4 inch. Drop that down into the bucket of hot water. And as I'm testing everything out, I'm washing the blower. And I'm checking out the cap pump. And if they're running a chemical injection system, I will run that too and make sure that everything is working properly. And by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm performing many different things at one time. I'm heating up the oil in the blower and the cap pump so it'll drain out much quicker. Okay. Then I'm also getting a good feel for how the system's running, how the cap pump is working, if the unloader is responding. I'm looking around for leaks. I'm looking around for trouble spots. And then as that's working and washing the blower out, the cap pump is still running, I'll come up here and pop the hood. Now this obviously isn't the way it is, but I'll look at the belts, I'll listen, I'll use my nose and smell for any burning belt smell, rubber smell, and just checking it out. Now this happens to be a 16, and I'm not always working on 16s. I've worked on a couple of 01s and a 99, and units that are not the fly-by-wire. And so I'm well groomed to every different model that's out there. And just listen, just sit here and listen to the machine run. It's running at 1500 RPMs, which, by the way, that's how I test them. I don't usually run them at Mach 2, because if they're running good at 15, they should run excellent at Mach 2. So there's that. So you guys that are running at Mach 2, I don't always test your machines at Mach 2. I just run at 1500. Butler does the same thing. And lo and behold, that's where I learned it. And so anyway, getting back to here, I'm just listening and I'm looking. I'm going around the back side of the van to see what's coming out of the blower exhaust. And that's indicative usually of what kind of maintenance the truck has had. If it comes out all rusty, if it comes out black, if it comes out dark brown like chocolate milk, that means that they haven't washed the blower out in a while. You've seen some of my videos I posted. And so as everything is running and I'm washing the blower out, and once it goes through the 5 gallon jug of or bucket of blower wash, then I'll let it run for another 5 or 10 minutes, however long it takes, just to exhaust all the water out of the blower. And then I'll shoot this port with, and Yeah, I can use and have used WD-40, but one of my suppliers has this Croil, and that's what I use. I spray that in there for about 10 or 15 seconds, give it a good douse of that. That way it helps dry everything out, and it's good to go till the next time the blower is washed. So then once that's all completely done, I'll shut the machine down, and I'll actually turn the van engine off so I can inspect the front drive belts. If the drive belts are, and I don't have a used belt here, but if the drive belts are recessed in the pulleys up front on the front drive clutch, if they're recessed, meaning the top edge of the belt is lower than the top edge of the outside pulley, then either A, they haven't been changed and it's well overdue, or B, not only is it well overdue, but there's a possibility that the crank pulley is bad and got grooves in it. Now this particular truck, because I'm doing a drive shaft replacement and it's supposed to be here today, and UPS didn't show up, but that crank pulley looks really good. You can see that with the radiator shroud, all the upper radiator shroud, and the air box sitting here. Everything is removed, but you can see that with everything removed, that thing looks really good and brand new. So the belts that were on here were recessed way down, and so that's not why he's getting a drive shaft. He's getting a drive shaft for a different reason. However, that's what I'll look at. But I don't always pull the radiator shroud off. But if the belts look bad, then I will. If the belts are bad and are recessed down inside these pulley grooves, then I will pull this radiator shroud off to replace the belts, but also to inspect the crank pulley. The crank pulley is the drive line of the system. If that's worn, you can throw new belts on there, and they may give you, I'm not going to call hours, they may give you, 10 or 15,000 miles before they start squealing and squawking on you. When you put a load on the blower, then it's going to sound like it's almost dying, and you hear a squeal maybe, or some burnt rubber. So that's that with the belts. And then I'll back it into my shop here. In here I just cleaned everything up and got it back into order. Got a cat pump I rebuilt. I got that sent out today. But anyways, I'll back it into my shop and get my lights in here, and then I'll start looking things over. I'll put 2 little cups underneath the blower to drain the oil. I'll put a hose on here that goes into a 2.5 gallon of waste oil, and just let it open this valve up and let it drain. Open those 2 valves up and let that drain into about some two 20-ounce cups, because it only requires 8.5. But if somebody's done some service to it and overfilled it, you want to make sure it doesn't run out on the carpet. Then I'll pull that hose off the top of the waste tank, and I will inspect that filter. And typically, if the blower isn't being washed, that filter's nasty, which, by the way, he did drain the tank, so there's no water. He washed it all out so it doesn't smell up my whole shop. But he didn't rinse out the stainless steel filter under there, so I cleaned that out for him, put it back together so I could test it. And then this filter here, this is your inline water filter. And that is your dampener. That sits up here like that. Inline water filter, a couple of QDs. And by the way, I also will take and spray all the QDs. I'll spray the bolts. I'll spray all these JIC fittings with WD-40. I'll just spray everything while I'm in here. I'll spray this valve. Spray these QDs. This one here is a little sticky, so that's going to get some spray before I put it back together. And it never hurts to spray WD-40 on anything. So And that's what I would call general service. And then once I fill the oils, 7.5 to 8 ounces on both sides on the blower, up to 21 ounces on the cat pump. It never takes 21 ounces. You always have like 3 or 4 ounces left over before it's midline in the back of the cat pump oil gauge. And I'll replace the belts if necessary. Now that's additional to my general service. My general service has a fee, and that's what I do. Outside of the belts, what I'm explaining is what I do for my general service, including the oils, but no belts. No belts are included in that. Then once I'm done with that service, after everything has been changed, the oil's been changed. If you have a grease, oil and grease, I'll oil it and then grease the bearings. And then once that's all done, I'll roll it back out of my shop. I'll fire it up, and I'll give it a good half-hour test. I'm running the cat pump, checking out the heat. I'm checking out the vacuum to make sure that it's not triggering after 15. I'll look at your RPMs to make sure the RPMs are where they're supposed to be. So 1500 is where you don't want it to go down below when you have your hand over the vacuum line. So it should be up at the higher side of the 1500 hash, the white line. On the 1750 mode, Mach 2, you want it up on the high side of the orange without the cat pump being triggered, the one on the pump being triggered, and without your hand over the vacuum line. You want that at the top edge of that orange. So then when you pull the trigger on the wand, you put your hand on the vacuum line, then this drops down and it's still within tolerance. It's still not dropping down below that orange. And once everything checks out and there's no leaks, I always, when they come in, see he's got a broken switch. I need to replace that. So I don't know how, he's not even filling it that way. The sight tube on the waste tank or the freshwater tank is so cloudy and black that needs to be replaced. That switch needs to be replaced. He's got this plugged off, so he's not filling it from that. I don't know how he's filling it. He must be pulling the cap off the back of the tank and dropping a hose in there. So that needs to be dealt with. I'll inspect this. And so all these things are additional. The waste tank sight glass, this sight glass, that's add-on. It's like upselling. And these guys are appreciative when you tell them, hey, I can replace that hose, and I don't use these rinky-dink screw clamps, so somebody's replaced that before. I hate that. Same with the waste tank, they're over there too. I'll check out his float switch, and more often than not, 9 times out of 10, the float switch has been bypassed, which means that when the tank fills up, it's just going to start overflowing and blowing out the blower exhaust on the driver's side of the van. And that's not good, because what will end up happening is you're actually giving it a blower flush with dirty ass water, and that's not good. So I'll inspect the filter, the float switch, and make sure the float's operational. And it's real easy to do. You just turn this switch on, you hear the clutch engage, and then once that lid's off, I'll raise and lower that flipper. And if the machine shuts off by raising the flipper, then you know that float's good. And then I will also inspect the park interlock switch on the transmission. And with this switch again, that switch engaged, I'll jump in the driver's seat, put my foot on the brake, turn the key on, and pull it out of park. And if the unit shuts off like that, then you know that park interlock is still operational and still functioning. That's about it. That's part of my general service, and that's quite a bit. I cover quite a bit there, and it takes me an hour to 2 hours, depending on what the situation is and what I find. And sometimes I've got to fix the unit in order to go through my general testing to make that happen. And so I have to replace parts to make it work so I can see what else is possibly wrong. All right? Hope that helps. Chip's Butler Service, and I'm all over it. My phone number is 616-437-3823.